So it begins.
At my signal, unleash hell.
Giant Slayer.
Hello, Slayer Nation. Boy, I've missed you. I'm so dumbfounded. It's been a while. I didn't hit the button in time. But it's been 2 weeks too long. Never going to do that again. I mean, I see everyone here. We got Stunt Brat. We got Eric K, Becky Broward. I mean, we got Toxic Waltz. All of you. You make this show what it is. Thank you for being here. And I got an amazing show for you today. I mean, we had news break over the night. Last night that didn't earn it policies just took another death blow. DEI is going to soon be going the way of the dodo because MIT just jumped on the bandwagon. And then we got, people who are fighting for free speech. We got Disney just had 4 of its films. Its box office flops just made deadlines, top of the list for the bottom of the pile. And then we have games. Did you ever think that video games would turn lethal outside of playing them? Well, you have people now who are actually placing bounties on other people's heads who are standing up for what's right. Well, let's say that enough. Let's get rolling. We have an amazing panel for you today. We have everyone here on this panel tonight is going to be a beacon of hope for free thought and fearless expression. We got a man who stands for truth, justice, and the American way. He's soared into your hearts wearing a badge and a cape. Let's welcome the one and only Dean Cain.
George, Slayer Nation, happy to be here, sir. Great opening, by the way. I love that opening. I could watch it every day.
I love it too. Thank you for being here. It's always a pleasure to have you here. The world's just gone crazy lately, and I can't wait to hear what you think about it.
Yeah, well, it's stunning to me. I literally, I feel like I'm taking crazy pills.
Yeah, it's
insane.
It's like you turn on the television or look outside your window, and everyone's trying to tell you everything's normal, but you're like, no, it's upside down world.
Completely. The stuff going on at the university campuses is insane. The idea of people rallying behind Joe Biden after these disastrous 4 years is insane. The terrible policies of California. You got Gavin Newsom talking about, putting those policies in effect everywhere. It's just absolute. We're going to look back at this time, and I think we're going to say, what the hell were we thinking? I also like your version of DEI.
Didn't earn it policies.
That's it.
Didn't earn it policies. Well, let's bring out a man who you know very well. He's an award-winning comic book writer, illustrator. He stands on principle. He's fueled by passion and purpose. Let's give a big Slayer Nation welcome to the bold and brilliant Gabe Eltaeb. Gabe, your mic's off.
It's the quietest he's ever been.
That was it. Now I had such a bold entrance, and I had my mute, my mic. Oh.
It happens.
Well, part of it. Thank you for having me. I am bold and very passionate, as you say. Ask my wife. I'm a very passionate man. So yes, I do stand on principle. I love it. Thank you for having me. This is fun. I agree with you and Dean. It is crazy to see what's going on. So everyone, just hold tight, keep your head, because we'll see. It's an election year. It's going to get fun. So
things are changing. And for that, we have this guy has not only argued before the Supreme Court by day, but he's lit up YouTube by night. He's a constitutional wizard, the legal himself, the defender of dialogue, Ron Coleman.
Dialogue whose microphone sounds absolutely awful.
No, it's
back. It's back.
It's back. Great to have you here.
I am unstoppable. What a pleasure to meet you guys. George, I already know we have shared a panel before, but this is my first time on the show, and I'm looking. This is the moment for it. I got things to say, believe me.
I can't wait to hear, man. We got Superman here.
I know.
Oh, you brought your dog.
It's quite intimidating.
Oh, my doggy.
And Ron, you know a friend of mine, Mike Barron, comic book writer.
I knew I was going to ask you.
He gave me my career in comics. I was working for Small Comics, the local newspaper, independent comics, and he basically defined the Punisher and great characters in the 80s and 90s. And I met him at a comic book store and brought him a sample of my work. On the spot, he hired me to draw his book at Image Comics. That was 2003 or 4. So Mike is a dear friend of mine. I lived out in Colorado where he lives when I was in college in the early 2000s. So he told me he met you and did an interview with you or something. He said you were a delight. I've been following you on Twitter for years, so I'm a big fan.
Thank you.
So
thank you very much.
Nice to finally meet you.
Same here.
That's wonderful. Now let's bring out our last guest. He's been missing for a while, but he is back. This is a movie critic who uses his razor-sharp wit and wisdom, which probably sends every Hollywood filmmaker who put out a flop to rethink their career choice about working at McDonald's. Let's say hello to the sharpshooter cinematic critique, the little Platoon.
Hello. Good to be back.
Good to be back. Awesome. How you feeling? Better?
Almost. I'm sort of about to enter week 2 of some form of flu, which is great, but it's not as bad as it was in week 1. So it's on the mend. I'm assuming it will go away at some point. I'll just try not to send it down the airwaves to you all until it goes away fully.
No, I get you. Last year it took me down for about a month. So I'm glad we had a great panel here today. Well, what I wanted to ask is last night, I think it was like around midnight or 1 a.m., MIT announced that they're dropping DEI statement requirements, that didn't earn it policy requirements for faculty. And I thought that was pretty interesting, especially after the case in the Supreme Court, which was recently. Wasn't it a unanimous decision, Ron? It was Muldrow, did I say it right? Muldrow versus St. Louis, where that female police officer was given the right to sue.
I don't know if that was an anonymous decision. I know it was not an anonymous decision. By the way, there is such a thing as an anonymous decision. It's called the per curiam decision. But I don't know. I didn't know there was going to be a test. I'm not one of those Supreme Court guys. When I took the bar exam, there's a famous case called Paul's graph, which is where we learned basically the law of negligence for the last 100 years. And on the bar exam, I couldn't remember the name Paul's graph, and I had to write the case with the scales in the train station. Okay, full credit. Okay, full credit. But I have trouble with proper nouns.
No, not a problem. What I wanted to know, what I was finding interesting is that over the last, it seems like 2 years, we've had cases which are either challenging the didn't earn it policies in different states, and I think that eventually leads to it changing not only in corporate America, but in Hollywood. And so here you had MIT, again, like in the middle of the night, they put on Saturday, an MIT spokesperson confirmed in an email that requests for a statement on diversity will no longer be a part of applications for any faculty positions at MIT, adding that the decision was made by embattled MIT president Sally Kornblum with the support of the provost, chancellor, and all 6 academic deans. Now, my question for everyone is this finally the beginning of the end for DEI, which is going to be the end of it in Hollywood?
No.
Is this the beginning of the end?
Well, it is the beginning of the end. And MIT is a super significant player here because in many respects, you have all these elite schools, the Ivy League schools and Stanford and Chicago, great schools. MIT is in the category of the top 10 overall research universities in the United States, but it has always had a different sort of cut, along with maybe Caltech. It's always been about the STEM, and these are the guys like, this is a university where there really should be no room for the soft, what is it? The soft bigotry of
low
expectations, because it's engineering. Okay, either your space shuttle blows up, or your bridge falls down, or it doesn't.
Right.
It's not like majoring in basket weaving or political science or any of these made up majors. So the fact that of all the schools that MIT was the first to move in this direction, and MIT has been somewhat radicalized along with all the other major academic institutions over the last few years. Yes, I think it is a significant step forward. Is it going to have an effect on the world of entertainment? No, that's a much, much more complex question.
Well, what do you think, Dane? Do you think, DEI is going to end not soon, but you see its death coming in Hollywood?
I hope I see its death coming everywhere. Because I believe in a meritocracy, and someone said that on the chat. I believe in meritocracy. I believe in hard work. I don't care what your ethnicity is. I don't care about the color of your skin. I don't care about your religion. I don't care about your sexual preference. Can you do the job? And can you be good at it? Hollywood's a different world because it isn't always a meritocracy. You can work your tail off and be fantastic and still get nowhere if people in power don't like your views or don't like you personally or whatever it is. So Hollywood's a little bit different animal. I'm a Princeton guy, Ron. So I'm one of those Ivy League kids.
Oh,
however,
really? What class?
I never subscribed to that woke mind virus.
What
never
class,
did.
Dean?
Pardon me?
What class?
Oh, sure. Give up my age.
You graduated when you were 9. I understand that.
Class of 88.
85, man.
There we go, brother.
Whoa.
There we go. All right.
So there was a tiny bit of overlap.
So yeah,
we did overlap 1 year. That's right. And then I was off to Northwestern for law school, and Dean was off to were you in Triangle?
Nope, didn't do that at all. Didn't do any Triangle. My girlfriend,
you're an actual actor.
Did a lot of that stuff, but I played football, and then I went to the NFL over there for that team. And then, while you were still at Northwestern, probably, and then
which did not play football much.
No, we played you, and you kicked our tail. So that tells you a little bit.
Well,
about
Princeton.
Yeah, we got smoked my junior year. But the DEI stuff just doesn't make any sense to me anywhere. I mean, I get it. I understand. We used to have, what do we call it? Oh my gosh, well, I won't call it DEI, but it was
affirmative action.
Affirmative action, which at this point in time, I'm not for that. I'm for meritocracy. Sure, I'd love for people who are disadvantaged to have ways to get up, and there's ways to do that. But I, this DEI stuff is ridiculous. A friend of mine was running a company, 10 years back. I was like, hey, what are you doing now that I call him run a DEI company? I was like, what is that? Because I had no idea what it was. And I changed it around. I don't call it DEI. I call it DIE.
Right.
Well, you know what they say, DEI, right? Didn't earn it.
I love
didn't
it.
earn it policies.
That's crazy, but it's true. And let's get back. America is a meritocracy. And that goes along with our immigration system, too, which we're doing some insane stuff. There's some insanely qualified, wonderful people who want to come here and love this country and would be supreme additions to this country who can't get in because we're letting in 10 million people across the border unvetted.
Yeah, I mean, that's an invasion.
Yeah.
Right. Here in San Diego, we're the epicenter of it now. They've kind of shut down a lot of it in Arizona and Texas. Here in San Diego, I follow Bill Wells. He's a Republican, former mayor of El Cajon. And his Twitter, he's always like, 1,400 more today, 1,200 more today, 70, and they're just take them to the Old Town Trolley and bus station that's near the airport. It's trains and buses, everything there. Put them on all kinds of transportation, and they ship them out of the country. It's happening every day here in San Diego.
Ship around the country, in the country.
Yeah, they actually don't stay here in San Diego, but this is where they're coming through, and our Old Town bus station is where they're being sent to.
Oh, there's places now where you
distributed.
At the airport, where if you're undocumented without a passport, you get in this line over here.
Yeah,
just plane, they fly them all over the world.
Right this way, sir.
It's crazy. It's insanity. What we're doing, it makes no sense. Does my head in.
But we're elitists. We're elitists. Look, a bunch of white guys, Gabe, with all due respect. You've got the funny last name there, but your skin tone looks the same as mine.
Clearly, I hate Mexicans, being half Mexican myself. Clearly.
Oh, well, we have our DI hire. Where is he? Our incredible producer. We have Mexican Iron Man. Get out of here, Mexican Iron Man. There you go.
Hola.
It's a DEI hire.
What is he doing here? He's not a YouTuber.
Yeah,
not a
why
YouTuber.
am I
He's
here?
a producer. He's a producer.
If it was a
Why-
DEI hire, he wouldn't be able to get himself on screen.
And yeah, we did call each other before the show.
Oh wow! So y'all are ready. I see
Yeah.
it. Well, what's funny is while we have a lot of areas which are trying to push DEI out, we got here that Disney started, according to Park Place, the Walt Disney Company's RISE program grants money to filmmakers based on religious beliefs, and it goes down here to explain that. Where is it? That ParkPlace.com was sent a tip by a reader that has turned out to be quite interesting. Blah, 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 blah. Goes, according to information we received, Disney may be acting in a way that could be reasonably be considered stifling to those of Christian, Jewish, and other religious beliefs. It all comes down to a program that is awarding significant funds and assistance to those who profess Islam as their worldview. So I went through this whole article, and they've basically created a program with Sundance where it funds only Islamic filmmakers and Islamic artists. And I'm like, how does that work? I mean, is that they're putting that focus on that while they're trying to say at the same time, where you had Bob Iger a few weeks ago when he's fighting with Nelson Peltz saying like, oh no, we're getting out of the culture war, where we're just going to be focusing on story. And is this an old tune just being rehashed? And they're just changing the game? Is it like musical chairs? What do you think?
I think it's your classic divide and conquer, right? They want to divide people by groups. You know, Paul Chato, he comes on this show. He's a very smart, older than me, and he pointed something out to me that communism didn't take after World War II in America, at least the financial version, because the middle-class blue-collar workers, they were paid well and had great benefits. So like, I'm not turning on my boss. He treats me great. So Paul pointed out the second plan was, well, let's divide by identity then. Gay, straight, religious, non-religious, man, woman, black, white. And that's where this Marxism resentment stuff it's really working. It's terrible, but it was a diabolical strategy. Instead of the financial communism, they went to the identity politics, and my God, it works, and it's awful. So yeah, I think this is more of, pit one religion against each other. And the whole time the elites, they have their hand in our back pockets while we're all fighting with each other.
Yeah, I want to go back to the days when nobody cared what sex you were, what you liked, what you did. You did your work, like Dean was saying. A meritocracy, your actions speak, not who.
Let's be careful. Let's be careful, right? I mean, someone out there who doesn't watch this stream right. is saying, "Whoa, that's a myth. There were never any such days." Dean and I, when we went to college, it was only white men, and there was something called the dirty bicker in the 1950s. It's very complicated. I'm not going to explain what that means, but basically, at Princeton, instead of frats, they have what are called these eating clubs, and it was kind of set up that all the eating clubs were all agreed that nobody would take the Jews that year to sort of, to send a message, and it became like a notorious anti-Semitic. There were definitely quotas in place in all the Ivy League schools, and blacks couldn't get into them for the longest time, and all the things. Mm-hmm. But we sweated blood to solve those problems in the 60s and 70s, and even in the 80s. And until Barack Obama came along, not only until the election of Barack Obama made all of us think we've done it.
Right.
We've absolutely put that behind us. This is great. Sure, there's individuals are still good. There's always going to be someone who's going to be a schmuck. That's always, you can't stop. Listen, let's get one thing straight right now. I'm the guy with the law degree. It's legal to be a bigot. It's legal to hate Jews. It's legal to hate blacks. It's legal to hate Superman. It's legal to hate anyone you want, and it's legal to say it. It's illegal to discriminate in employment, housing, and a gazillion things. And the state of California, which is where Disney is, it's really illegal. It's really illegal. And this Muslim, so I discussed this with a pro, with WD Pro, Disney World Pro. Walt Disney World Pro last week when the That Park Place story came out. And I have to do a little bit of quick research, because the question is, what kind of discrimination is this? This is not discrimination in an employment context. These are creators who are outside the company. And I don't know whether or not there are employment opportunities that are offered to grant recipients. That would not be unusual if that were the case. But all things being equal, it might fall under the category of what's called a public accommodation.
Okay.
Which is a category that was read very broadly after the passage of the 1954 Civil Rights Act, and as interpreted by the courts through the 60s and 70s to be really, really broad. But California law defines it even more broadly. I'm not admitted in California, although the Dillon Law Group is headquartered in California. I'm the New York, New Jersey office guy. But in California, they passed a law in 1964 called the Unruh Act. And they said, you can't even discriminate against somebody because of his political activities.
Right.
You know why they passed that? Commies! They passed it to protect the commies.
Yeah, that's
that's rather ironic.
Yes, CS 1001 and 1002. I looked those up when I was having my difficulties with Warner Brothers. I went and found those. There have been laws on the books here about political affiliation statements and all that since 1937. I looked these up when DC Comics doesn't want to work with me because I'm a Trump supporter and all that. So Ron is absolutely right. Political affiliation statements, going to rallies, whatever, completely legally protected in California, just not in practice. It's in the book.
Well, that's right. Well, especially going back to what Dean said, in the creative arts, it's one thing to say, I went to McDonald's for a job, or I went to Coleman's law firm for a job, I went to an airline for a job, but there are so many subjective factors. And one of the things that I was asked the last time I talked about this was, apparently what that Park Place found out, my client, by the way, I should make it clear that I am biased in favor of whatever they had to say. That Park Place learned that not only does the woman who is in charge of this program run the program, but she's also got sort of some kind of input into the entire creative as from a DEI perspective and from the point of view of Muslim inclusion. And listen, I think it would be great if the Jews undid all the damage they did in Hollywood, although Disney would be a strange place for them to feel an obligation to start doing that. But Disney's free to do that. Disney is free to say, we want, you could have an Apache, you could have a Nazi, that's creative. That's the First Amendment. You got the right to make as shitty of a movie as you want to, and Disney proves that every single day.
Oh, yeah. But believe me, did they prove it? They just made deadlines. Lists. Disney detonates 4 bombs in Deadline's 2023 most valuable blockbuster tournament. Platoon, did you see this? Did you see this one, Platoon? Where
I didn't see the story, but I suspect I've seen at least one of the movies, given that I can see Carol Danvers there.
They show that Marvel's, lost 237 million, and it goes to, where is it? It goes to Indiana Jones, lost 143.
Platoon has such a crush on Carol Danvers. It's so obvious every time I watch your stuff. The way you just drawl when you mention her name, you love her.
And then they went to Wish, and what was the last one? It goes here, and Haunted Mansion. So you think at some point that they would get the message, right? Dean, you were in Hollywood for years. What does it take to get the message to these people who are making these movies?
I'm still in Hollywood, George, but I don't live there.
Okay.
I still make my living doing this, but it does become a money thing. So at a certain point in time, listen, Bob Iger was the president of ABC just before I came in. So I know Bob, and I like Bob personally. I don't like what Disney's done, and I might have made some different decisions. But at a certain point in time, if you just keep hemorrhaging money, things got to change. As Hollywood really is a bottom line kind of a place. Like they may have that desire to do this and that but then all of a sudden, The Sound of Freedom comes out and it does huge box office numbers. you can't fight that. At the end of the day, that's, if people want to watch something that's good, it's like what Gabe and I did with our graphic novel, the Dean Cain All-American Lawman. That exactly. You know, we're going to put something out, regardless of what the big boys say, and hopefully people will flock to it and like it. If that happens, you can't stop it. But there are people in Hollywood that have had a monopoly on that for a long time. But with the way things are now and the way that technology has changed, you can come out with your own product the way we came out with our product, and you can make a difference and you can make a splash. And if people show up for that, suddenly you might end up being the ones with the power.
I think the problem is whether it comes too late, though, right? I mean, so it's sort of a similar dynamic as you see play out in American colleges as well, which is that you finally started to see, because of a lot of the student protests that have been going on. I use the word student protests advisedly because lots of them aren't students and they're not really protests, but nevertheless, whatever you want to call them, we'll call them that. But the same way as some college benefactors in particular have belatedly woken up to the fact that maybe all of the massive endowments they've been given these colleges are not actually doing a huge amount of good. So they're starting to withdraw the money, which of course is putting pressure on college administrators and particularly university presidents to sort of consider changes of policy. The fact is that university is going to take a long time to recover, if it ever will recover, because for years and years and years, they've been installing an entire apparatus which has very little to do with the fiduciary responsibility to its shareholders or to people who invest in it or to the people who give it dowries or anything like that. They have a massive HR department, which is not there to ensure that the students are getting value for money or that they're being taught the right things. And in many cases, they're there to protect the people who are losing the universities a huge amount of money. And the way that that's sort of similar to the way that Hollywood is working at the moment is that, again, you've had many, many decades probably at this point of entire systems being put in place which have very little, if any, relationship to the money-making enterprise. It's very hard to just switch on a dime and start saying, well, we've lost so much money now, so we'll instantly revive Marvel. Okay, good luck with that, because you've hired, all the people you've hired are incapable of doing that. You've destroyed the property, you can't restore the reputation, and you can't immediately get rid of all the people you've hired, because then you'll have equal employment opportunity lawsuits coming at you. So it's going to be a tricky one to row back from, and it's whether they can do it like just in time, if there's any time left, or whether for many of these companies, studios, universities, it's a bit too late to start doing this now.
So why can't they do it? I'm sorry. Why can't they do it? Why can't they fire them if, like in a business, you're losing money and you go, okay, this team isn't working?
So I have a lot of thoughts about this.
Oh, go. Shoot.
I used to do a lot of trademark law. Brand equity, brand equity, brand equity. Disney fell into, it's a great business decision, the purchase of Marvel Studios. And they figured, we have now added a hot new 21st century brand to what had always been one of the great stables of marketable, seemingly eternal brands in the entertainment business. The beauty of a franchise, so what is a franchise in business? I'm a franchisor. I give you the right to stamp the name of my franchise, Ron's Burgers, on the burgers that you make. On what condition? You're going to follow the standard operating procedure for making a Ron's Burger hamburger. So that anyone in the country who goes into a Ron's Burger, including the one for which you pay me a fee and residuals, knows what he's going to get. That's how brands work. Disney understood that a successful franchise, as long as the standard operating procedures are followed, will always pay, will always make money. If it's a great franchise, if it's great brands, and if the standard operating procedure, oh, wait a minute, you have to also follow the standard operating procedure? They forgot about that part. Same thing with the universities. Princeton, Harvard, Yale, Stanford, Chicago. Anyone graduating from these schools is going to be set for life. That's a lie, by the way. There's an assumption of quality in terms of instruction, in terms of admissions, in terms of graduation, in terms of honors. But what Dean and I know is that even by the 80s, it was becoming the point, a problem that since everyone who got into Princeton had been a great student, except me, I I was an athletic scholar. Also, I don't want to talk about it too much, Dean.
Interpretive dance was hot when you came in, so you know.
It was, people couldn't stand not getting A's. So the curves began to go out the window, especially for football players, right, Dean? Yeah, I am the one with the football player average in this conversation. Great inflation, and then affirmative action, and then DEI, the standard operating procedures that had made these great brands for a century, and in the case of the Ivy Leagues, for multiple centuries, went out the window. And in both the cases of the Ivy Leagues schools and the other elite schools and the studios, but especially Disney, and especially because of the way they were just absolutely printing money with Marvel, they didn't think they had to follow the cookbook anymore because it was just going to always make money. And Gene, if it's a Superman movie, it can't go wrong, right? Nothing could go wrong.
Well,
obviously, some work out better than others. Now, as you guys have pointed out, Gabe and Platoon, this process has now so insinuated itself into the organs of these, and Disney is the worst, because not only is it the #1 entertainment, everything in the world right now, Disney has always had a countercultural aspect to it in a way that the solely Hollywood-based studios haven't, because of Orlando, because of South Florida, because of the parks. There's been I'm going to put it in neutral terms, a gay activist cultural thrust in and around Walt Disney World for many, many years. And it's not that surprising, because they are a major, major employer of mediocre show business talent. Okay? And I say mediocre, I mean a hell of a lot better than anything I ever did when I was in the Triangle Club, but probably not good enough to break into the big time. But these are the people doing all the gazillions of shows and starting out in the furry, out. And guess what? I'm going to break something to you guys. A lot of these people are homosexual. Okay?
In Hollywood?
Yeah. You know, but it doesn't, see, that's the thing is everybody, I mean, it's like I view Hollywood how it was years ago. They made great films, whoever they were. Nobody cared. They made great films. They made great. Right. I'm saying it didn't matter who they were, but it seems like at some point their ideology took over, and that killed storytelling. Like that took front and center. So I wanted to know from Dean, it's like, from your perspective, I mean, you have colleagues, I'm sure, that are both conservative and progressive. Like, how do they view this? What's going on?
View what's going on? Well, it's a mixed bag. You know, some people are all for it, and some people are. Most people who are in our business and in the film business are not that educated. They're not that smart, and they are, you know, they tend to be very idealistic, but they tell emotional stories, and that's great, and so they can appeal to people's emotions and therefore help shape their belief on a subject. I mean, heck, if you just watch the hour of footage from the Hamas raid on October 7th into Israel, that you could see no more emotion in the world than that, and how horrific that was, and how Israel, in my opinion, is completely. Listen, if you did that in my neighborhood here, or toward my kids or to my family,
come on, we'd all be
gone.
Yeah, of course. Could you imagine if that happened in America? Yeah.
But that's that movie. But that's that movie storytelling. If you see that sort of thing, you go, "Oh my God, that's insane." But nobody gets to see it. Very few people get to see it, and then they even deny it is real. It's a weird thing. So, in our business, people tend to be idealistic. But I mean, I think that there's enough room for us to sort of, you know, put a counterculture thing in there. Like, I was a big fan of the Frank Capra movies.
Oh, God,
way back in the day, you know, you go, Mr. Smith Goes to Washington. It's a Wonderful Life.
That was propaganda.
It was propaganda, but I loved it because it fed
all storytelling. All storytelling is persuasion. It is all propaganda. So you should choose what kind it should be. Ron, I loved what you said about the franchising and the recipe. I would step back from Disney and go to the 40,000 foot view. Disney is a metaphor for American and Western culture. Started off by good men and women and families, and they're not perfect. They had their private problems, but it was traditional. It was family focused. It was capitalism focused. The stories were uplifting, good, and bright, just like American Western culture was moving that way. And as Disney degrades, you get more of this communist culture of resentment, basically, is all communism is. As that moves in and decays Disney, you see it also in the West. So,
but, as Platoon could, he's a student of these sort of trends. These battles have ebbed and flowed throughout the decades. There have been moments of ideological and progression and revanchism. The 70s art film movement, right? Platoon. This battle has gone, and what happens historically? What happens is, well, when your message films stop making, anyone remember who was the studio head who said if you want to send a message, send a telegram?
No,
it might have been Meyer. Okay, but as the industry got wealthier and wealthier, and more less and less competitive, in other words, there are fewer studios, they began to experience more and more of the luxury of being able to try to sell us things that we didn't necessarily want to buy. You have a level of consolidation now. And again, the franchises really through, I think, you didn't used to, let's not talk about B-movie serials from the 40s. That's not the same as the Marvel franchises, which I learned everything about from Platoon. This idea, again, that you don't have to respond to the market because Spider anything is always going to pay back. And Captain America, everything is always going to pay back. And Iron Man, anything is always going to pay back. So the wealthier you get, on the one hand, the easier it is to fool yourself about that because the money's still sloshing around in the system for so long. But on the other hand, when you have I guess a paradoxical effect, right? Which is that you start making movies that cost $400 or $500 million on the expectation of billion and change guaranteed box office. When those movies come in at 3, 4, 5, and you haven't even begun to cover the marketing costs, that delta looks really, really big. And yet, when you get an outside, an activist investor who says, "I want to make changes here," the institutional investors swat him away and.
Right, but Platoon, it seemed like if there were activists over the last, let's say, 30 or 40 years in Hollywood, it seems like they were either kept under control or calmer heads prevailed, the ones that focused on the movies.
I think what Ron says about sort of comfort is probably one of the key points, because there was a large period of history where, for reasons that have absolutely nothing to do with double dealing or backhanded arrangements, if you wanted a successful movie studio, you were actually probably going to do much better with a higher proportion of Jewish people and gay people than you were if you didn't have as many Jewish people and gay people. Because being sort of on the outside of society and having to work your way in tends to actually breed for talent. And there was a time when this was absolutely true. And there's a reason that certain groups flock to certain industries more than others. It's because that's where they are allowed to be successful. And they've had to prove it. And so they had to earn their way in. And once they earned their way in, they got the jobs, they kept the jobs. And over time, they became sort of instantiated and they became very fat, lazy, and comfortable. And when you're fat, lazy, and comfortable, as Ron points out, you start making the decisions that got you there in the first place. And you start just trying to either hire your friends or you hire the people who agree with you. Effectively, you're doing the opposite of the very thing that made you successful to begin with. And then it becomes sort of self-fulfilling at that point, because once you've accepted that talent has very little to do with it, and really it's just you're hiring people who are your political allies or whatever else, then you're going to be very resistant to change, because the people you're going to have to fire to correct are your friends and your political allies. You've got the legal aspect as well, which is that many of these decisions are now made on basis of identity. And if you start firing people who happen to predominantly be of one identity or another, you've got an equal employment lawsuit coming down, I would imagine. At least it's not going to be very easy for you to do that, because it would seem to be disparity. And it's very then hard to reverse course. That sort of goes back to your question earlier as to why we can't just fire so many of these people. nobody in charge wants to fire them. And if they tried to fire them, they would be in trouble. And it's another one of those things that makes it very, very difficult to reverse course, because we've built this entire system which is designed to be resistant to change. And then, of course, you've got on top of that, you have the fact that the investors generally are very skeptical of any sort of change. They tend to get very comfortable themselves. Activist investors take huge risks, and more often than not, they don't pay off. And when you go to someone who's been making lots of money with Disney stock for the last 30 years, and you say, hey, how about a massive course correction? They will say, oh, no, don't upset the apple cart, because I've made so much cash. Why would I want the change? So it's unfortunately, there's a whole like combination of things which make this a pretty rotten industry at this point. It's why the most sort of interesting upstarts are newer companies. You've got studios like A24, which are sort of making headway because they are not part of the established studio system yet. But once they get there, they'll fall into exactly the same traps over time. It's just that at the moment, yeah, you have the big studios with effectively a monopoly on the industry, and monopolies are again also like not responsive to change.
So is that why they keep just retreading the same old thing?
I think so. They're out of ideas. They're not hiring for talent. They are hiring their friends and their allies. And there's no real understanding of the stories that they used to tell. Lots of times, actually, they very much don't like the stories that they used to tell, as you see with like the Snow White remake and what's her name, Rachel Zegel, coming out and saying, oh, it was made in the 40s, and obviously so. Weird. Like lots of these people don't. They actually quite dislike the things that made Disney successful to begin with. They got the job for reasons that have nothing to do with talent and storytelling, and so they don't prioritize talent and storytelling when they're creating their own works of art, which is a shame. But at least we get to all laugh at them when their films bomb. So there is some good that comes out of it.
And generate massive amounts of content.
Oh, they do. But Dean, what I wanted to know is, you were talking about meritocracy earlier, right? And we all want to see it go back. But from your point of view, how do we get culture and politics kind of like, and Hollywood back to that merit-based system?
I go back to just, again, it's like what Gabe and I are trying to do with our comic is you make other product. You do something like Sound of Freedom. You do something like All American Lawmen that we have out there. And if it gets wheels underneath it and starts to flow, then you have the opportunity to make more stuff. Hopefully not fall into the trap that Platoon was talking about if things did work out really well. But I think that's it. You fight back by making product that you like. And because of the way that we can deliver stuff these days with the technology, you can get to so many millions of people. I think that's how you change it.
And you think there's support for that?
There's one nice thing as well about the current state of culture that we're currently in, is that your comic is already several $100 million more profitable than Indiana Jones 5. So
yes.
Well, that's the thing. That's the thing is, but do you think there's support quietly behind the scenes for a change?
Of course. I get the emails still. I get the private messages. Old DC Comics colleagues of mine, I will not name you.
Yeah.
You know who you are, and you know you hate what they're doing, and you've told me so multiple times. So.
Dean, we hear all the time about actors who are in the closet about being, I'm not talking about being right-wing nuts like me or Platoon.
You're a right-wing nut? I didn't know that.
Are you kidding? I'm one of the great Orthodox Jewish Nazis. I'm told this every single day on Twitter, okay? But that there are actors who just really are regular Americans and they're patriotic, and they're not prejudiced against anyone, like most of us. And they feel that they can't, like they've got to sign in, they've got to represent on every. So, I mean, this Free Palestine movement has been a phenomenal.
It's a wake-up call.
Yeah.
But a litmus test. I mean, is there no limit? I mean, but before you'd have to have some kind of moral framework, which Americans aren't really that good at anymore. As traditional religion has become less and less, influential in our culture. So people don't want to judge hardly anything. A family-friendly drag show. Oh, who are you to say? All right, fine. Now we're talking about mass murder, rape, mutilation. Oh, yeah, well, context. Whoa!
Yeah, I mean, but we see that shift, and I sometimes wonder if it's we have somebody else who's here. 1 second, we're going to bring him in. If it's the chicken and the egg, is like, did Disney and the other studios push the culture to it's kind of like it's the point they polluted it, or did the culture, the culture push Disney in that direction?
I think it's like the pedals on a bike. I think they work together. The left and the right push others. You go. I would say, Ron, it's like your franchise thing, which I love so much. As you say, as people get away from religiosity, I guess, and get away from the family, the nuclear family, or the extended family, those are the ingredients to Ron's great burgers. You cannot come back to Frank Capra's America until we are married religious people again, whether you like it or not, because that's what built the culture we have. Those are the literal ingredients. You said, well, we'll make the burgers with other things. Like, okay, they're not going to be the same then. And nobody wants to talk about that. And even on the conservative side, with a lot of my conservative friends, they don't want to face that. They don't like the way that feels. And I keep pointing out to them, that's the problem, though. Those were the ingredients that built the Western Judeo-Christian world. They were family-oriented religious people. And no one wants to talk. That's an elephant in the room.
But one second, let's bring someone here. He wants to, real quick, Ron, 1 second. Tom from Midnight Edge is here. Tom, got any thoughts to share?
I
like
it's
to share.
A bird, it's a plane, it's Dean Cain.
Yes.
There we go, baby. There we go.
And Gabe, we never talk.
No, never. It's been what?
Never.
15 hours or 20 hours?
Almost 20, just over 24 hours, I think.
Okay.
Well, you heard, Tom, what we were talking about. You heard what we were talking about.
Well, I mean, you guys have covered all kinds of ground.
The chicken and the egg. You think Disney started creating this, or did it spring from the universities, or are they mirroring the culture?
Well, here's the thing. There's always been this crossover of politics and movies and television and stuff like that. It's just been how it's been done. Now, this week we have the new Planet of the Apes movie, and ironically, it's being produced by Disney. Now, the original Planet of the Apes films, the original 5, they didn't hide the fact. They were one of the first to really kind of push out there and make it pretty obvious about what political things they were complimenting on. Like, the movie came out right in the midst of the civil rights movement in the Vietnam War. Right, so if you watch Planet of the Apes films now, you can clearly tell what they're commenting on. It's not even a secret. Right. So it's not like these things are new. It's just how they're done. The thing is with Planet of the Apes, like Star Trek and other sci-fi, they use the apes as an allegory for different races of people. Like if you watch the film, the gorillas and stuff, they all kind of hang out together. The chimpanzees all hang out together. The orangutans all hang out together, and they actually have different classes. Right, and they consider themselves in different classes. You have the orangutans, which are the the political elites, and then you have the chimpanzees, which are the scientists and the doctors, and then you have the gorillas, which are all the menial workers and the cops and stuff like that in the army. So like they already have that kind of set up in there. Is like this. There's that political, it's always been a part of it. Dirty Harry, Death Wish. These movies have always been around. The difference is nowadays they're shoving it into everything. Back then, you didn't have a bunch of political stuff in Disney films, right? You didn't go to Dumbo expecting a big political message.
A lecture, a purity test. It's like now everything's like an ideological purity test. Do you remember any of that, Dean? Like when I watched movies growing up or was watching you, it's like I was tuning in to see Lois and Clark, Superman, have a good time. Not like, hey, let me take you through some ideological strip search. It's like,
yeah, they're shoving it. Maybe it was a lot more subtle back in the day, and they shove it down your throat now. And I don't want to be preached to.
Not only they
my entertainment,
they shove it down your throat, but they're also asking you to believe the unbelievable. And this goes back to our MIT versus the basket weaving. Hollywood's doing the same thing, which is Cleopatra, the well-known Black sister.
You're talking about the Netflix one? Yeah, Netflix.
Right? And superhero girls, of course, and chicks who beat up men. Like, the stuff that was done before was often racially charged. Yeah, Dirty Harry shooting up black people all over Los Angeles. And they remembered what the last Dirty Harry was at Magnum Force, where he ends up being outflanked on the right by corrupt, like, white nationalist cops who are actually literally just killing people. And he becomes like the reasonable, moderate guy. But now, but the point is, you could then have the debate about what was about the message and about the agenda. Now you may not have the debate. and you have to accept. How about Bros? Okay, a movie that was focused on a tiny sliver of of Western cultural experience.
Right, but he blamed everybody for not seeing it.
Well, but that's right. And anyone who didn't see Cleopatra is also, or everybody who didn't see The Woman King is failing to.
Isn't there a word, like another word for a woman king? It was like queen or something.
Could there be? Would there be something like that? I don't know.
Yeah.
But I remember Bros, the director, when I had read an interview with him, he was like, this is the first, what was it? This is the first fully featured studio-backed gay film, and he was blaming Americans for not going and seeing it. But that would be like someone telling me, you know, why I didn't go watch like the Muppet Babies. It's like, it's like, meaning like it didn't do it for me. I had no interest in going and see it.
There's
problem with that movie
and with comes out there, right? So like if something like Bros, this is the gay romantic comedy film, isn't it, Bros, that we're talking about? There's a self-obsession, which is that, well, this thing is important to me as the creator, and therefore if it's not important to you, it's your fault, not mine. It's not the first gay-made romantic comedy. I can pretty much guarantee you that. It is the first one, maybe, that's like a gay romantic comedy in the sense that it's about, like, what, 3 to 10% of the population at most. The main audience for romantic comedies is women, and most of the reason they watch it is because they kind of fancy the men. And they're not as interested in watching the men bone other men. It's just like, you're not appealing to your audience in that situation. You are appealing to your own very niche taste. And it's not other people's fault if you don't like that. The same thing with the American Society of Magical Negroes that came out relatively recently, playing on a trope that is so unknown and unheard of that it isn't a trope, except in a very, very small writing community which obsesses over questions of race in writing. And of course, it doesn't do very well because no one's even heard of that trope before. It's not using a common message, and it's not preaching any universal value. It's so sort of incestuous and niche. Of course, it's not going to be successful. But this is just basically failing your audience. If you want to be successful, give people what they want. It's really not hard to do. We used to do it all the time. Stop going for these wacko niche little weird gay romantic comedy / black tropes in literature things. It's so pointless. I don't have any
money. So the money didn't speak. Listen, guys, I'm not a Hollywood guy. I'm here. I'm looking out the window at the skyline of the west side of Manhattan. I'm in Newark. I don't know from Hollywood, okay? But I know from what I learned in the popular culture, Dean, you know what I'm talking about. The money's supposed to ultimately make the decision.
Show business.
Money.
Isn't it show business?
And that's what I was going to say is the problem with these movies is it was Bros the first romantic gay comedy ever made? No. Was it the first studio backed?
He said studio. The director said the first big budgeted studio.
And that may be true. And that's the problem right there. Same thing with The Woman King. And that is that you didn't have those movies budgeted for their audience. That's the problem. They spent way too much money on Woman King and on Bros for the audience that actually exists for those movies. And then they're griping and complaining when the normal audience isn't coming to see it. It's like, well, the problem is these kind of movies were the type of movies that studios used to only spend like $500,000, million, 2 million tops on, 3, maybe 4. If you're maybe for The Woman King, you might have to spend a little bit more for that. But even then, they wouldn't spend an ungodly amount. And if they hit, great. They paid great. But if they didn't hit, no big deal, because they were made for a very small niche audience that only exists in a small corner of the world. And if they don't make $1 million, $10 million, $100 million, then it ain't so big deal if they only cost 3 or 4.
The franchise and blockbuster and blockbuster phenomena distorted the entire economics of producing a movie, I guess. So that it would be unthinkable to be in a movie that only had a $30 million budget. What am I going to do with that?
So I haven't said much, but I wanted to do one. I grabbed my book when I had a chance, okay, which I read twice, and I'm going to go back to something Dean said about 45 minutes ago, that we have to recreate new cultures. Now, I am a prolific buyer of independent comics. You guys on this panel may or may not know that, but I am. I bought almost everything from Comicsgate and independent comics. I've been buying since I lost my collection in an ill-timed garage sale that my aunt had before she died. She thought I didn't. I mean, I'm talking, Dean, I'm talking long boxes of, I don't even want to tell, things that
I thought you didn't want them anymore, mijo. They're old.
That's what she said. It said it to me. That's exactly. And she sold them all for $100, and I had some stuff. Anyway, so I have been buying independent comics for a long time, and let me tell you what I love about this book. Okay, this is an impromptu, shameless plug. First of all, it's autographed.
Thank you.
It drops you in. I bought a lot of books. This is absolutely one of the best independent comic books I've bought in the last 7-8 years that I've been buying. And I buy anything. I could pull up my Indiegogo right now and my fun comics, like my accounts, and I bought book after book after book. This is absolutely one of the best independent books I've bought and read in years. And it drops you in, guys. You know, it drops you. We'll put the link in the chat, but it drops you into the action. It's a great story. It's well written. The art is great. But it's really about the story. I think what got me most that I enjoyed about the book was the story. The Dean is obviously the hero here. I mean, he looks exactly like him.
Right.
Okay.
It was like a meta concept of Dean playing a character in a movie, but it was a comic book as a movie. You know,
and it reads exactly like that. And when I finished it, I felt that I had watched an action movie from the 80s and 90s. Turns out I'm in the back.
We set out to do that.
And I read this page in the back, and I'm like, oh wait, that's what they wanted to do. And the way it ends, no spoilers, is it sets up the next book in the series perfectly, which probably is an even bigger and better story than this one, which has action scenes mixed with family values. There's family values, there's action, there's payoffs of everything, even little random stuff like rigatoni, which I'm not going to tell you what that's about. But there's payoffs for the littlest things are dropped in here like Easter eggs, and they all pay off by the time you get to the end of the book. And first of all, the book is thick, but
it's 110 pages. 110 pages of story.
But normally when I get a 110 page book, I'm not really reading it. I'm just sort of glancing at the words and going through the art. In this case, I read the story, loved the story. Then when I read it the second time, was able to go back, and then I could appreciate, say, some of the artwork and the scene setup and stuff like that. So I never thought, I thought the comic book industry was dead. I never thought that when I got into buying independent comics, let alone buying this book, that when I was a 10, 12-year-old kid, that inspired me to want to be a hero, that inspired me to want to be brave, that inspired me to want to stand up to bullies. I never thought that when the comics book industry started to die, that something like this would be a revival. But guys, this is absolutely a revival. This takes me back to when I was 10 to 12 years old. And here I am, a guy in my 50s. I'm sitting on the sofa. I've read this book twice now. And I wanted to tell you guys this before, because I actually opened this up originally. I posted the video this morning, but I originally opened this up, and I was going to do this on Midnight's Edge. But the thing is that I just want to compliment you guys, because I think that if you guys are able to inspire that in me, a longtime collector, a fan of movies, I believe that inspiration can exist for everyone. And for the money that I paid for this, which is definitely less than going to the movies for sure. You know, you take a date, you buy some popcorn, next thing you know, you're out $100. But good job. Great job. I can't wait to buy the next one. And this gives me hope that maybe you're right, Dean. Maybe what we need to do to get this thing back to meritocracy is we got to support stuff that reinforces the values that once made this country great. So thank you.
Wow.
That was the best interlude.
What Mike is trying to say.
All-American hero. Get it now.
Can I co-stop with some of his speed there? Can you share my screen? Whoever shares screens. I'll let Dean come out too, but absolutely, we poured everything we had into this because we're passionate about it. We're businessmen. We want to make money for sure, but we know it's the product and the quality, that franchise that Ron talks about. Dean and I worked for the biggest things. Dean, obviously, ABC, Disney, all that stuff, Superman. I worked for Star Wars and Batman. You've heard of it.
Believe me, I've worked for some pretty big things in my time.
And we have the skills to compete, obviously. I'll put this book against anything from Marvel and DC. We're better. The art is better. The writing's better. We're out there to entertain you. We're not preaching, oh, if you're left wing, we hate you. No. This is fun. Look at the image here. I mean, this is just, we're trying to go for Die Hard, Romancing the Stone, Indiana Jones, Beautiful Woman, the guy saving her, attack helicopters. Please
having fun with a hot girl and doing right. Hell yeah.
It's not dirty. We're not breaking down orgy sex scenes and gore and all kinds of swearing. And no, we're just having fun like we used to and giving people awesome, uplifting messages. And that's what we want to do here. And thank you for that. And Dean, I want to ask you something at the end of this, so remind me. But Mexican Ironman, I'm so happy you're wearing this shirt. There's a really fun scene, right, of how he ends up in this shirt.
Yeah.
And guys, I wore it because it exists. So you can get this, bigmancomics.com. Please go get it. We don't have too many left. The first printing of this book, we only have, I had thousands, but I only have like 300 or so left, 300 or 400. And when the first printing is gone, it's gone forever.
Says here I can't get a signed copy anymore. So maybe, I don't know.
Well, there's no more signed copies because Dean lives in Vegas and I live here. And he's got to travel to sign books, so I had to take the signed copies down.
Yeah, well,
unless Dean wants to visit me more and sign more of them, you know.
Or maybe Dean wants to sign one for his fellow Princetonian, you know.
Absolutely.
I mean,
we'll have to work a deal like that off the air.
Let's work a deal like that off the air.
Did you
on the golf course, of course, which is where the real deals get made.
Yeah, always.
Or is it by the pool?
I can't guarantee you'll get Dean's hair and his smile, but I also won't deny it. I won't deny it either. Maybe some of you guys out there, you get this shirt and you're going to have to fend the ladies off. You know what I'm saying? I'm just saying. You know, so please get the shirt. I'm wearing it. It's working for me. So
mine's dirty. I have a different shirt on.
Oh, there you go.
But yeah.
Did you see, Gabe? Did you see the video we put together for your comic? That latest one that we did a couple of weeks ago?
I don't know, but the first time I was here over a month ago, you put a video together. I think you sent it to me and I used it or something like that.
Well, let's play it. Since you have a few more left, let's get this going. Hell yeah.
It'll feel like a movie.
Hold on. Let me get this going.
Well, you're getting that going. Also, we got another guest backstage.
Oh, gosh, this is getting crowded. Man.
Yeah, we have one that we have with I gotta find it, with has all the effects we put in. We put in gunshots and it's amazing.
I see the Mike Barron fingerprint there.
Hey, it's Robert Meyer Burnett. Happy birthday to you.
My actual birthday, if no one shows up, is the 15th of May. But thank you. I can't believe people have kept this joke going for months.
Robert, you've met Dean, Gabe?
I don't think Dean and I don't know if we've met before. I'm a huge fan of yours, Mr. Cain. It's great to meet you.
Appreciate that, Robert. Happy birthday.
Nice
well, now that I can
Robert.
say
Happy
Superman's
birthday.
wished me a happy birthday, I mean, you know, you go all the way back. You've been on 90210. My God. So
Rick from
he killed someone and got away with it. He got away with it on Law and Order too.
Yeah, well, I mean,
rare.
Dean, what was
a
that
very
thing
storied career, sir?
Those people on Twitter were calling you a racist on Twitter, Dean, and they were using a different world footage as proof that you were because you
played an Italian racist kid who actually turns a corner in the show and realizes that he was wrong. But I played a racist Italian guy, which I'm not Italian. I'm Japanese, by the way. And people now say that, you know, my true colors were showing off in that because I'm a horrible racist.
Because you did write the script, of course.
Of course I did. Of course. But it's a ridiculous thing. Like I also am really Superman too. So if they're gonna listen, if they're gonna throw that out there, I'll take the Superman as well.
It's a bird, it's a plane, it's a racist. You know, here you go.
We need
Can I ask Dean a question? Can I ask Dean a question? I know you have the question, but I want to ask Dean this because we are the two here that work in the arts.
Go ahead.
Mexican Iron Man, you said the book was so good that we did, Dean Cain, All-American Lawman, available at bigmancomics.com right now. You said it was so good, the story, the writing, but I believe that's because Dean and I are passionate about the art. Yes, we're businessmen, we want to make money, but when I got to college and I got into art school, I was very disturbed because I've been writing and drawing since I think I was 3 or 4 years old. I love doing this. And I realized most of the other art students were there to be a rock star and be loved, admired, and worshipped. And they weren't any good at art, really. They would do their weird modern art because they sucked and they didn't have the discipline to really learn to draw. But Dean, did you find in Hollywood, like how many actors are there because they have to act? Because that is how God made them. I have to write and I have to draw. That's how God made me. I love it. And I love being able to do it for business. But I sincerely love art, and it shows in my work. It shows in the work you do, Dean, by yourself and with me. Were the actors you met, did they love acting, or is this just something they were good at and they could make money and they didn't really care?
It's a hodgepodge. Some of them are extremely, their vision is straight on and they know what they're doing. They know why they want to be there. They have to act. They have to make movies. They have to, express themselves. And some people are there to make money and just go, hey, this is a good way to make money. It's a good thing to do. And I think, as time goes on in someone's career, I think you start to make things that mean more to you because you have the power and you have the experience and you go, okay, there's a message I'd like to share. I mean, how often do you see an actor that you've known for a long time goes out and writes a movie or directs a movie or has something to say about it? And it's wonderful to be able to do that. I just finished one that I wrote, produced, directed, starred in. I can't wait for it to get out there, called Little Angels. And it's a wonderful thing to be able to do. It's got family values. It's got the things that I like about it, but I think that it's a mix. A lot of people want to just go be famous. Like all the kids now want to be, YouTubers or TikTok stars or whatever it is, but they don't want to do it. A lot of them don't want to create anything. They just, eat or, do silly pranks on people or, you know what I mean? There's just all kinds of different things, but everybody wants to be, if you ask all the kids nowadays, they all want to be YouTubers or they all want to be TikTokers or whatever the cool zeitgeist is at the time. Because they want to be able to influence
that.
Yeah, I couldn't believe it. But what's interesting is it was last week I heard Michael Mann was talking about, he was at the Los Angeles Book Fair and they had asked him, why isn't he doing more films? He says, look, I'm one of the oldest filmmakers around now. But he gave some insight. He says, nobody in Hollywood today, he goes, wants to work with me because in Hollywood, he goes, it's generational. And I was talking to Robert about this. He's like, all the young guys in Hollywood today want to work with their age group. Is that really true? Like they don't, like to me, if I was in Hollywood, I'd be like, who wouldn't want to work with a Michael Mann or a Coppola or Scorsese? Yeah, I mean, but the way he was putting it, he was saying like they don't want to this generation. They want to work with their group, who they know, their network.
It's true. It's unfortunate. My dad's 80 years old and he's a director. He produced and directed Young Guns. That was then This Is Now. Okay. The Principal. He's done 40 movies.
Next Karate Kid.
The Next Karate Kid. Yep. But he he's like, I don't think they want me to do anything anymore. I'm like, Dad, your knowledge is insane. You could direct it sitting in your chair, piece of cake, and tell the story the way you want to tell the story, because he's a storyteller. And I think it's crazy that it's ageist like that. I would jump at the chance to work with Michael Mann or my father or Coppola. Of course, they're incredible filmmakers. So I think it's true, though. I think it's unfortunate, but it's true. And I think as these youngins grow up, they're going to start to figure it out.
It happens in comic books too. I would see artists that I loved when I was a kid, and they would do like Norm Breyfogle, rest in peace. I worked with him on some projects. He was a definitive Batman artist in the late 80s and 90s. By the time I started working with him in the early 2000s, he's working for independent comics and this and that. And it's like DC Comics lost his phone number. And that happens to a lot of the comic book artists when they get into their like 50s and 60s. The young editors don't know him, never heard of him. It's really terrible. So it's the same in movies, though, as Dean said. Yeah. Over in comics, same thing, man. So
Film Threat, when they did that recent report, flat out said that all these people that are working at Disney have never seen any of the original films. They have no real frame of reference. Like they've never seen Cinderella, they've never seen Dumbo, they've never seen Bambi, they've never seen any of them, so they don't know.
But that doesn't make sense to me. It seems like if you're going to go into that business, you're going to go into that art, which is also business.
Well,
like you'd have an education, you'd like a foundation. It's
no,
like
they know everything already. Why would they have to want? They already know.
But part of that's Disney's fault.
Films. Why is it Disney's fault?
It's Disney's fault because they killed the vault. right?
Okay.
It used to be that they had a set of films that were considered so classic that would only get released every 7 to 10 years. And when they stopped doing that is when these kids stopped caring so much about these movies and they became less important. And then along comes Disney Plus and stuff like that. Now you've got The Little Mermaid right next to Little Mermaid 2 and 3 and Bambi right next to Bambi 2. So that makes them worth nothing. Just as much as the rest. So to me, that's what killed that whole thing is when I was growing up, one of my first memories is going to see like Pinocchio in the theaters. Right. And then when I was 5, 101 Dalmatians got re-released.
So Platoon, this is your area of study. I mean, the whole concept of canon is, I mean, it's used in comic book world. It's really a metaphor that has been brought over to comic books, right? That there's a basic universe, one, and there's a tradition, and that's a real dirty word now, right? There's a tradition about character origins and the world that people live in and the city that people live in. But beyond the comic book world, as you were pointing out, Tom, there was, the Disney canon. There were the classics. But how can you sit on your classics for 5, 7, 10 years in a streaming world, in a DVD world? I'm not sure that I love blaming Disney all day long, but I'm not sure that's their fault.
Well, if I might, I think you're absolutely right, because remember, I always say that pop culture has a half-life of 20 years. Pop culture is by definition of its time. And as we move further and further away, Disney was a company that when they were releasing their animated classics, there weren't that many of them. You could see there was maybe 10 classics that Disney would re-release, beginning with Snow White and Pinocchio and Cinderella, and that was their bread and butter. But now we live in a world where we have exponentially more material to watch. And in order to stay relevant, companies like Disney, Little Mermaid, I mean, Disney was in the toilet in the 80s. They couldn't get theaters for Tron to play in 1982. And it wasn't until The Little Mermaid and Beauty and the Beast revolutionized Disney animation that began their, like a phoenix rising out of the ashes of what they used to be, to become the powerhouse that they were over the last couple of decades. And I think that every okay, there you go. Who Framed Roger Rabbit?
Just before Little Mermaid, this saved Disney single-handedly.
Well, I mean, but that I wouldn't say that was, I don't know about
this
that.
made twice as much as Little Mermaid did, but anyway.
But I mean, but the thing is, that wasn't their core audience. That was for adults. And it's the kid audience, it's the family audience that built Disney. And that kids went to see she's not bad. She was just drawn that way. But it was the kids that was Disney's core audience, and that's what Beauty and the Beast and that's what Little Mermaid did. And I think that, again, with pop culture, you have to reinvent. Just like, look, Dean was the Superman for a generation of people. There was no George Reeves from the 50s. There was no Christopher Reeve in the 70s. There was Dean Cain and Lois and Clark: The Adventures of Superman, and he was the first romantic Superman, and that was and you were bringing back, say, the idea of the pitter patter, the dialogue of the 40s, that sort of in the wake of Moonlighting, which brought it back. You had a superhero show that was more concerned with the dynamic between two people than it was about superheroics, and it brought a new twist to Superman, which made it sort of indelible for a whole generation. And I think,
and he had a hot Lois.
He did, who became a Bond girl, but they both were hot. I mean, let's not, I'm a straight man, but Dean was a hunk of burning love in that Superman suit. Let me tell you. But no, I mean, I think that every generation, it's just like James Bond. Sean Connery's my Bond. I like Roger Moore. Spy Who Loved Me was the first Bond movie I saw in the theater, but Daniel Craig will never be my Bond. The Daniel Craig, I love Casino Royale, but the Bond, that was the morose, bitter, James Bond's gonna die James Bond. That's not my James Bond. And
Isn't that kind of like Doctor Who, Robert?
I mean, Doctor Who's another 60-year-old character that's been literally reinvented through every regeneration for a new group of people.
But
the problem is,
go ahead.
The problem is it's the storytelling itself.
Mm-hmm.
You know, great storytellers are telling stories like with Dean's comic and Gabe's comic that is true to themselves. They're not putting things in that other people want them to put in. Great art, I think, it lives or dies based on the intent of the artist. And if the artist is allowing their artistic endeavors to be, I don't want to say polluted, but influenced by something that, you know, great characters and great story have to drive the idea to tell stories.
And if I could just jump on,
go ahead.
You're on point. And that one of the things that stood out for me is that what I could tell about this book is that you guys you must have sat and spent serious time about who is the character, what are they like, what is important to them, what will they do, what will they not do? Because most of the books I buy, certainly the independence ones, they set up characters that they think are not, it's what Robert Meyer Burnett just said, they're not fully developed. And this is a guy where we know what his values are, as he has humility, and see, all of these things aren't just about who it like kind of describing a character and then letting them go and do a bunch of stuff. This is every one of these characters, even the villain, they're all fully developed, and you can tell that that's gone into that, because the full, like what Robert Meyer Burnett is saying, is that by having fully developed characters, you then are able to get a good story.
Right. Well, Dean, I want you to bounce off what I'm going to say here. When I first pitched this idea to you, I told you my ideas, what I liked, and we were both like, jinx. We both said, hey, have you seen Romancing the Stone? We both said that to each other, like, oh, God, you love it too. And then I said, okay, whip me up a document. And Dean made me a character Bible for this character. This is who he is. This is what he believes in. Some of those quotes right from Dean's document made it right into the script about he'd rather have dangerous freedom than peaceful slavery.
Oh, my God. I love that line.
That was a quote that Dean gave me, and that comes from Thomas Jefferson.
Where did you come up with that line, Dean?
That's
Thomas Jefferson.
Yeah, one of the founding fathers. You got to give him credit.
But are you saying that they're not doing that? But are you saying they don't build characters like that in the films today?
Well, I think moral relativism is one of your big problems.
Yeah, I agree.
You get these characters like, well, Ron said earlier, and we all know we get sick of this from the progressives. Who's to say what's right and wrong? That's not the franchise recipe that built Western culture. We do believe in right and wrong as Westerners. We do. And we know what it is. It's the golden rule. You don't do anything to anyone you wouldn't want done to you. That's very simple. But when you get into moral relativism, now you just have heroes that are actually just villains fighting other villains, and it's pretty disgusting. So, yeah, we totally developed these characters because it was important to us to talk about the things we believe in and entertain people while we do it. So, absolutely, man. Thank you. I'm so glad the things that we wanted to accomplish, we did, because so many people I hear, they said it feels like an 80s, 90s action movie. That was like, yes, that's what I was doing. And then number two, the values, how there's a deep connection between the father and son in this, and bravery. And the point of this whole story, the point, which is stated twice by the main character, is you do the right thing no matter how terrifying it is. That is the entire point of the story.
Right.
To encourage people to do that in their lives.
Well, you have good and bad. You have straight, it's my mouth today. It's easy to see what's good, what's bad, what's right, what's wrong. It lifts you up. It allows you to
that's the problem with
really
trying to
have
write
fun.
Characters when you're woke, is because it always starts with, well, I want a deaf, gay, black person. Instead of starting from the other side of things, which is, like if you're talking about a superhero, it's generally funner to start, well, what are the superpowers? And then you start to get into the origin and who they are and all that kind of stuff. If you're just talking about a regular character, a great example of good character work is Aliens, right? Because those characters are written in a way that serves both the story and things that are going on in the universe, but they're written in a way that it doesn't matter if they're male or female, right? That's not what's important. What's important is what's going on at the moments in the story and what decisions are being made by the people in their roles on the ship more so.
I did think it was weird that Yaphet Kotto talked about how racist the alien was, though. I did think that was weird.
Constantly. He's just like, I'm not going to survive this movie. You know how these things go, the old myth.
I think a lot of people have
upset he didn't go first. Sorry, George.
No, I think a lot of people have forgotten to have fun in entertainment today. Not only fun, and just deliver classic messages. Dean said it in the beginning, It's a Wonderful Life, Frank Capra, Mr. Smith Goes to Washington. I mean, I watch those every year. Just like I watched Lord of the Rings, Jackson's Lord of the Rings trilogy, or Star Wars, the original. I mean, it's May 4th weekend. How many people you hear are talking like they used to about Star Wars? We got the Acolyte trailer came out. Platoon, did you see that? Yeah. You saw it. I'm starting to think it's not Star Wars, it's Star Wars.
That's what I've been saying for a while. Yes, I wrote that on Twitter a while back. Yeah.
Oh, well, cool. We think alike.
They deserve it, but that's very mean.
But they're doing it now to X-Men. Did y'all hear about the Marvel is going to change, or there's a rumor that they're going to be changing the X-Men. They're going to be focusing on the women. So we're going to go from X-Men.
Comedy. Don't forget the comedy.
I know we're going to get there. They went from X-Men to the Extrogens. I mean, it's like no men allowed. Why
X-Men? They just added an E to the front of it.
Can I, George? There was quick thing on. Can you share my screen? I wanted to just tease something.
Yeah,
just so people know this isn't over, damn it, till Dean and I say it's over. This book, thank you for making a success, but here's a little teaser. I had it, but I didn't say anything. The second one is already being conceptualized and talked about. I made the logo there. We're going to Southeast Asia, the Hong Kong connection, and it's going to be what you think. It's going to be all that fun stuff. You got your French connection, right? All that. So we're going to go more action, more fun, more babes, more awful bad guys, and we're having a lot of fun there. And one other thing, thank everyone for supporting me and helping me getting Big Man Comics rolling, because I'm currently with the same artist from Dean Cain, All-American Lawman. My next book, Empyrean, it's Latin for means the highest high where God lives. It's a story, husband and wife, evil dictator, a planet of people who have been living a lie, and the true world that they're promised has been hidden from them. And it's Star Wars meets Interstellar. And again, I want to have those values and excitement and all that stuff. And it's just so much fun, like Dean said, to get out there and make your own things. Because we can complain about Disney. They're going to do what they're going to do, man. I don't control them. So it is just good to just make our own things. So thank you. I'm humbled by all the support, guys. It's all a Big Man.
It's so important that you guys are doing this, too, because there is I was talking about canon before, and I didn't get to hear from Platoon. He probably fell asleep already. What time is it in England?
Ron, can you check your mic real quick?
You're in the trash can again. Ooh.
Never mind.
Well, it's like before we start, I want to read a few super chats to see if there are any questions for you. So, Mike, let's bring him up real quick while
That's a good time for me to check my mic.
Okay, while he's fixing. So we got Stormtrooper Julian Caesar for $2. Hail the victorious dead. Hail to you, Stormtrooper. Mexican Iron Man, the producer. All right. He gifted 10 Georgia Giant Slayer memberships. And let me tell you, today, for the first time, right when the stream finishes, we're going to hold an after party, kind of like a live membership stream. Instead of holding it on second days, I thought we might as well try something new. So everybody who got a gifted membership today, you're invited. A little bit like an after party. I've posted it for all the members, so they're going to be there, and we can continue this. Then we have Jim Alaska is back again. How you doing, my friend? He gifted 20 Georgia Giant Slayer memberships. Thank you, Jim. I hope to see you there in the membership stream when we get together. Tender Warrior 68 gifted 10 Georgia Giant Slayer memberships. Tender Warrior. Thank you. You keep moving us forward. Not a banned account for $2. Why do Sony and Helldivers 2 hate Ukrainian players? Does anybody know? I heard about this early this morning. Tom, do you know about it? What happened with
I don't, but just from the question, I'm assuming that you can't get Sony network in the Ukraine.
That game is not available. It's suddenly not available in like 100 or so countries anymore, because
that would be my assumption.
You can't get a PlayStation Network account in these countries, and to play this game, you have to have that account. I was talking to my brother. My brother's a gamer, so he was giving me the lowdown on this. But they sold it to people in these countries for the last few months, and now they're requiring the account. So I think the game won't work anymore or something. I don't know. It sounds like nonsense.
That's my understanding too, from what I heard. Yeah,
because I wanted to touch on it. It sounds like a scam, but let's get to the next chat. We have a PM member for 2 months. PM, thank you, Soups. Soups, he says he sends his love. WDW Pro gifted 5 Georgia Giant Slayer memberships. Thank you, Pro. Can't wait to have you back. And he sends for $10. Wait a minute. Superman, Mexican Iron Man, and Ron Coleman on the same panel. These are the real American Avengers.
You're missing one superhero, though, Pro.
Bat Tom.
Ron's nemesis is the microphone. That's his nemesis.
It is today. There's Bat Tom.
Well, I did hear it was somebody's birthday.
Yes, that's Robert Meyer Burnett.
Oh, the Robert Meyer Burnett?
Yes.
Well, then that calls for a special celebration. But I knew his birthday's on the 15th. He's lying.
No. Everybody celebrates.
I'm a detective. I know these things.
You need Robin. Go find Robin.
Okay.
Mr. Burnett, you're not the kind of guy that lies about your birthday to get like a free Sunday at Denny's or something, are you?
No. It's been somehow somebody came up with this joke on one of my streams a couple months back, and they started to wish me a happy birthday, and people have kept this joke going now for almost 3 months. So I bow to all of those people. I wish the country had that dedication.
On various live streams, various channels. I believe 10 o'clock at night, 8 in the morning. I've seen people doing this to you. Real quick,
it's hilarious.
Got a really big channel. He's at a show on May 14th at noon. I'll send you Gabe and Dean the information if you guys want to make an appearance. I'm sure we can sell the rest of those books on that day. They got a pretty big live chat. But I'll send you the information out there. Let's keep. Yeah, he's a great guy. I
am Middle Eastern. I'm 8th Jewish, but I'm also like half like Libyan and Syrian and Turkish. So the selling runs through my veins, you know.
I'll help you close it. Like it's not oranges on the side of the road, but let's get these books sold.
Yeah, Mexican too. I guess we're selling.
You got 300 more of these. We'll sell them on the pro show on that Tuesday the 14th.
Let's do it. Let's do it.
Mr. Buttcrack Media gifted 10 George the Giant Slayer memberships.
Thank you, Mr. Buttcrack Media.
Got a new member. Look.
Hey, Ron Coleman, you become a member. Thank you, Ron.
He doesn't have a microphone, but he's got a membership. Let's go.
I got a microphone.
You can join us in the membership stream.
I got 2 turntables and a microphone.
Hey, well, it's working now. It sounds brilliant.
No, I figured out what it is.
Mark of reality for $20. Gentlemen, normal people, nerds have lost. Marvel, DC, and Star Wars. We've won a victory over Lord of the Rings. Right now, the culture war's biggest battle is over, the video game space, and it's the best place for a decisive victory.
Did we win over Lord of the Rings, though?
I thought we did. Come on, Rings of Power, it died.
We're getting a second season.
They can put out all the seasons they want. That show is dead. They had, from episode 1, from the premiere to the finale, they only had 37% of its audience stayed to watch it. And that's after spending, what, $1 billion between the rights.
Yeah, but didn't Embracer or somebody, the company that owns them, just buy the rights to the Lord of the Rings here this last year?
They bought, they're sharing them. The problem is Warner Brothers has distribution rights for the films, but then Amazon has the rights for television, and Embracer has rights for some of the books and some of the stories. But the problem is there's now a report saying that Amazon bought the rights to the Silmarillion. I think the way they're going, it's dead. They can put out all the seasons they want. I mean, if your show in its first season lost 60% of its audience, Dean, could you imagine that season 2? What are you going to have? There's no one to build it on.
Wouldn't have a season 2.
There you go. But see, they're yeah, go ahead.
They fixed the problem, did they not? Did they not announce that they're going to have even more female directors? That will fix it. Absolutely. Yeah. The major problem with Rings of Power is there was not enough estrogen in it. So now we have more of that. It will be great.
You know what's sad is when Dean was doing Superman, like that show would have been canceled way earlier had it gotten even, the type of ratings that any of these shows would.
Oh, man.
And it's just like, look at Batwoman or whatever it was. It was not, they barely could muster 500,000 viewers in most cases.
Oh, the CW one, Batgirl.
Yeah. Or Batgirl, that's what it was. Well, I think it was Batwoman, wasn't it? But
it was Batwoman. Batwoman was hilarious. I will not have a single bad word said against that show. It provided hours and hours and hours of quality entertainment for being completely lacking all self-awareness. It was great.
You mean for tearing it apart? Right. For tearing it apart. Is that what you're talking about, Platoon?
Yeah, in the way that Madam Web was genuinely a really enjoyable watch, Batwoman was something special. Kind of like the Willow TV show as well. That was also a very special period of time.
Willow. Wow. Willow. I mean, they didn't even do a season. They're like, nope, we're done. Yeah, they killed it. They killed it. No. Lord of the Rings, like I said, they're going to pump out a season 2. They said they're in pre-production for season 3. But for season 2, I remember last year, and they had confirmed this, they say we're going with only female directors, but they didn't say, do they have any experience in fantasy? No, female directors. That's all they want.
Why do you hate women?
I love women, but I would like to have somebody making a film or a show or I don't know, doing anything else, actually have the ability. When they just say we're looking for women, aren't there qualifications? I don't know.
Who's not, right? I mean, I'm married. I'm not, but you know what I mean.
Oh, and then they did say they were going to be doubling down. They said the long format storytelling is dead. That's what the problem was in season 1. So they're going to do it where every episode has more action and is self-contained, like a monster of the week.
But what I want to know, what I really would like to ask these people, if I could just get, what is that truth serum, like sodium pentothal or something? I don't know what it is. But I would really like to ask these woke people, where do you get the nerve to think that you can write better than Tolkien? To say, he was okay when he wrote those books, but here, let me fix it for him. Where do you get nerve like that? Where do you get, as Ron's people would say, where do you get the chutzpah to do something like that?
You're overlooking the most important part. They were old white men. That's the thing.
My bad.
See, so
that's it. That's all it took. They were white.
They were white men.
You know, Billy D. Williams, I think he said 3 weeks ago he didn't have a problem with blackface. Maybe they should just. He did. He came out. He's like, no, if we didn't have blackface, he goes, you wouldn't have Olivier doing Othello. Michael Preston for $10. Hi, guys. And most awesome Superman Dean Cain. I wanted to say that the greatest part of Dean Superman was that he still had parents. I believe it's the only Superman who still had a family unit. Yeah.
Let me tell you what, that is a huge point, Michael. And thank you for recognizing that. The thing about that character is here's this being who was the most powerful being on Earth. And where was he raised? In small town Kansas by a family, an intact family, a mother and a father there with those small town American values. And so instead of becoming this absolute just monster who could control everything and everybody, he is humble and he is the most moral creature on earth because of his upbringing. So that is truth, justice, in the American way. And that's what he fought for because he was raised by those small town American values, which are about liberty and individualism and protecting the little guy and all those things and everybody having the right to their opinion, et cetera, et cetera. And that's why he would go to his parents during the show, which was wonderful whenever he's having a problem, and they would give him real sage, wonderful advice. And so I agree with Michael. That was one of the best things about the show. 100%.
Wonderful. Great, Michael. Thank you. Frank Hammett, member for 3 months. Frank's here. Greetings from Gettysburg. Greetings from Texas. One times band camp for $2 Canadian. Terry Hatcher was the best lowest. I
agree. The best lowest of all time.
Hell yeah. I think did we get them all, Mike?
Yeah, that's it. Does anyone need to go right now before we go to the next segment? Anybody want to punch out?
No, I got a punch out.
I was supposed to be someplace 25 minutes ago. But
okay. Well, let's let you outro.
What's that?
Yeah. How much longer will you
outro?
Another 20 minutes.
I think
I appreciate it. Thank you guys for having me on. George, keep slaying the Giants.
Nice meeting you.
Happy birthday, and appreciate Gabe. I'll speak to you soon. Bless you guys for having us on again. Really appreciate it. It's awesome, and can't wait to be on again.
Thank you, Dean. Great, always having you.
Great to meet you, sir.
Staying?
I think I need to go. I hear my granddaughter screaming in the kitchen. She might be hungry or need something like that. My wife's with her.
All right.
We got to go. It was a delight to be here, guys. Thank you so much. Thank you for all the support, the interesting comments, stuff challenging my own ideas, or just learning more. The culture is so important to me. My dad's an immigrant from Libya. They killed a lot of my dad's friends and family over there. And I love America and this culture so much. And I just want to use my God-given ability to make entertainment that entertains first. But I want to inspire people to greatness. I really do, because I was inspired by so many great movies and stories growing up. So thank you for all the support, guys. Everything I'm doing with Dean and all the other stuff, bigmancomics.com. And I feel the light coming. I feel like we're winning culturally. The thing with MIT, people's eyes being open to these horrible campus anti-Semitic bigots, I think we're turning a corner here. I really do. And I do believe that entertainment plays a huge role in that, because politics are downstream from culture. So thanks again for having me. Go to bigmancomics.com. Please subscribe to my YouTube. Follow me on Twitter. Follow me everywhere. I just use my name, Gabe Eltaeb, everywhere online. And I'll be back again. I love it. So please have me back, George, sometime.
Absolutely.
Good seeing you, Gabe.
Great to see you, Gabe.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. I wanted to share it because we were just talking about this. Look what this was shared what's coming out of West Point. This is what they're teaching right now at West Point, which is going to lead into our next segment. It's deconstructing patriotism. Patriotism is one of the classes, exploring postmodernism and U.S. Army recruitment amidst the lack of a national narrative. 2, uniform perspectives, the evolution of cross-dressing in the military and gender norms.
Wait, what?
Yeah. This is at West Point now. Ever since they changed their mission, did you hear about that? I think it was 8 weeks ago.
Yeah, that was a couple months back.
It was
the mission from what? From protecting our borders and fighting for our nation to what?
I'll share it with you in a second. I'm pulling it up. It says, then it goes, do my leaders get me? That is another class, unpacking the importance of representation in the military.
Representation.
Oh, Lord.
Harder rights, an approach to espoused values and behaviors.
Has this been confirmed as actually being from
Yes.
I believe it.
I will show you.
I believe it.
I will show you the it's crazy because I'll show you how they changed their mission. If y'all talk about that for 1 second, anybody who wants to jump in first, I'd love to.
I want to talk about how I don't want my kid to go into a military academy now. Oh my God, what the hell? Max wants to go to a military academy. He wants to either go to West Point or the Naval Academy, or he wants to go to the Air Force Academy because he wants to fly and do others. Help me, Robert. Help me.
They removed duty, honor, and country from the West Point mission statement.
Yes, sir. There it is. That's what I was looking for. Robert and I talked about this.
Yeah,
we are so fucked if we go to war.
Their new academy statement reads: to build, educate, train, and inspire the Corps of Cadets to be commissioned leaders of character, committed to the Army values, and ready for a lifetime of service to the Army and nation. These values include loyalty, duty, respect, selfless service, honor, integrity, and personal courage, according to the U.S. Army, but not duty, honor, and country.
Which was MacArthur's big thing. I mean, that's where it came from when he gave his commencement address.
Yeah, I heard it right there. I mean, you know what I find so interesting, and you know me I work in the film business, and we're finishing up a movie called White Devils now. Ooh, yeah. And working on our new audio drama that is a noir piece set in the 30s that deals with real American history. It's been really interesting to me to see how storytelling itself, which is people looking out. I mean, what is art and what are stories, but to help us define our own lives through the plight of characters or the tales that are being told. And the whole point is to look outside of ourselves at stories, to see something new, something different, to have something illuminated about ourselves we might not know. But now stories are being crafted to cater to an audience, which is the reverse of what storytellers used to do. You would hope the stories that you told found an audience. And of course, Hollywood's tried to cater to audiences, but it's the storytellers themselves didn't necessarily used to do that. You know, and now everyone's the customer. The students at universities are customers of those universities. And the idea that the customer is always right has infected because they're paying money, which is the actual exact opposite of when I went to college. I went to college because I knew I didn't know much. The whole point was to go learn from people that would challenge me intellectually, that would challenge. College was supposed to be a dangerous intellectual place to go because you were exposed to ideas that you might not have thought of otherwise. And that might have made you think deeper and think differently.
Challenge you. It's supposed to challenge
absolutely.
You, right? Yeah.
And now it's kids want education, higher education, to cater to their wants, which is the antithesis of what education is supposed to be. And our entire civilization is flipping that way. By the way, I think we have been pushed in this direction by bad actors who are undermined. They can't destroy us militarily. So let's undermine our foundational principles. And we gave them the perfect tool to do this. And it is being utilized by bad actors and has been. Well, some people would say, people like Jonathan Haidt would say it's being done since 2012 because he's got the documented background to prove it. But it's pretty interesting. And
but don't
I think
you think
all
now,
of our,
sorry.
well, just our IPs are suffering from that.
I agree. I mean, sorry, the mic broke. I couldn't hear you.
Oh, you can't tell a great story trying to shape it to an audience.
Right.
You know, you have to tell a story that's true to the characters and the story, the narrative that you're trying to tell. And that you can't go the other way. It never works. And the audience knows it.
But we see it in the revenues. We see it. They're falling. They have film after film that flops. You have the same thing with shows. I believe it was Rebel Moon.
That's the difference, isn't it? I mean, ultimately, like in the case of entertainment, yes, the money will speak one way or the other. So Disney will keep taking investors' money, and it will keep putting out bad films, and it will lose loads of money, and eventually it won't be able to do that anymore. That's different, though, than when it comes to, say, a college like West Point or the broader American university system. And it's certainly different over here, where we have even more public funding. But you in America, Robert's right, you have this mentality, which is increasingly the students are customers, and so they have to be given what they want as opposed to what they need, which I think is a bad thing. But you've unfortunately married that with the fact that you've got a significant amount of tax subsidy that goes to most of these universities as well. And an increasing move to say that actually the student shouldn't have to pay for what they want. Other people should have to pay for them. So you go, you expect everything to be given to you that you demand, and then you want somebody else to pay for it. And it's a systemic failure over the course of several decades at this point, and that falls both on the Republicans and on the Democrats. But I would say almost particularly on the Republicans, in that you've turned a complete blind eye to your educational establishments, even when they're federally funded. And you've allowed, like, effectively just the mass hiring of lecturers and university academics who are not principally there to educate people in sort of the old liberal arts traditions, but are much more concerned with putting on as many courses as possible with the word decolonization in the title, effectively creating a whole generation of students who are activists and not scholars. And this has been done with your tax dollars, and no one has done anything about it. And the Republicans, even when they're in power, haven't done anything about it.
Oh,
and for all people can say nice things about Donald Trump and the good things that he did for the economy, he didn't do very much about it either. It's a systemic failure by pretty much everyone who's ever been in charge to actually pay attention to one of the most important institutions in America, and that is your schools and your colleges and universities. And until people actually start saying, actually, no, you're not getting federal funding if you start putting these courses on offer, then nothing will change, sadly.
But you're right, Platoon, and that's the fact. Yuri Bezmenov said it years ago that the first thing that they're going to do is they're going to go after your institutions. They're going to go after your children to be able to program them to change them. I mean, it's part of the process. But don't you think that we're in a, which is one of the reasons I want to ask Ron here today, don't we have right now with these protests that have been going on, right, for the last few weeks on college campuses, haven't they exposed it in many ways, what is happening? What they've turned into?
What they've exposed, though, is a fait accompli. I don't know this. I think the only alternative, just as we have, our friends making their own comic books, and we're making our own content, there's enough money in America and in the West to make new great educational institutions. And by the way, it's easier today to do than it was 100 years ago, because you don't need a 3 million volume library.
I mean, you see the billionaires pulling out of schools. You got Ackman. You just now had, who was it? It wasn't Weingarten. It was, who just pulled out of Columbia University, pulled their entire.
Oh, yeah. Well, there's something else happening, too, in the country that is, I think, even more distressing. I was reading, actually, it was either reading an article. It turns out that in Silicon Valley, there are no entrepreneurs under 30 anymore creating great startups. That entrepreneurial spirit and the people, the Zuckerbergs, even Elon Musk, and when they were doing PayPal and Sergey Brin and all those guys, they were in their early 20s. They were coming up with these things at Harvard, and they were creating them. That entrepreneurial spirit and that knowledge to be that entrepreneurial is being systematically chipped away. And it's worrisome to hear that at least we could compete on a technological level. But why is it that we're not churning out people from our colleges that are going to Silicon Valley and creating the new thing, creating the new Facebooks or creating the new whatever they are, whether you like them or not?
We might not answer that today.
Right. Well, I mean, it's.
But he's got good questions.
But I mean, that's just, I think, another symptom of what's happening. And, you know, you've got people are coming out of colleges. They're afraid to be entrepreneurial. They're afraid of failure. They're afraid of well,
they're afraid of their own shadow half the time.
Well, it's
they're not incentivized. They're all they have to do in order to go to college is sign on the dotted line, and then money will be transferred from a bank, guaranteed by the federal government, and then eventually forgiven by Joe Biden.
Actually, not forgiven by him, paid by us.
Right, forgiven to a gigantic institution that is going to provide them with adventure and fun and self-esteem aplenty. They trust the government. The government has made it possible for them to go to the college of their choice, to stay safe from any possible disease or risk, to even eliminate political opposition to the existing regime. Like all the things that when we were in college, okay, I'm older than most of you guys, but I'm maybe not all of you. Even in the 80s, when there was this sort of reactionary movement, you know, during the Reagan era, that was still we're like Englishmen now, Platoon. It's like Americans have become absolutely comfortable being swaddled by an all-encompassing system that is probably more privatized than what they have in the UK, but is essentially, it's all institutional. And the idea of these elite institutions is to just get your piece of the action.
Right, of course it is. But I mean, come on, you're talking about swaddled. Y'all all probably saw Robert. Again, we talked about this. I was waiting to ask Platoon. I've been dying to hear what he thought. You saw that quote unquote revolutionary Platoon on television and on Twitter? The one who was
this the one who demanded humanitarian aid in the form of not stopping DoorDash getting to the halls? Yeah.
And I'm like, what kind of revolutionary is this? I'm like, it's like they're sitting here trying to be a quasi Che Guevara, but with DoorDash.
Not even embarrassed. Utterly lacking, and talk about a lack of self-awareness.
Right, but I saw some of these other universities, and I didn't know if it was a joke. I've been trying to find the post, but I think it was at Georgetown where they were like, okay, or it was at Georgetown. We're going to maintain our protest, but we need Vaseline, dental dams, and they went on to, you know, kale smoothie food.
No coffee though.
I mean, it was like, what kind of revolutionaries are these? I mean, it's kind of pathetic.
Well, with the Vaseline and dental dams, I can only imagine.
Yeah, no, but it was on their list. Plan B. I mean,
I would say they need some of my people. They need some more Jewish people for their protest, because we'd fly food in via drones. We would have had people up on the roof. We would have made sure that the exits were taken care of. You know, we would have planned this stuff. But,
well, what's more sickening, Robert, is that the Jewish people that are with them on this one.
But you always have. See, I get asked that. I've gotten asked that all. You always have
basically making Gina Carano literally correct, not just figuratively correct.
Correct.
Well, I mean,
you always have it. You
know, but the thing about colleges is that protest has always been a good thing. But the thing is, when somebody starts, you know, stopping another student to go to class, well, then you've crossed a line. And these colleges did not clamp down on it right away. We should not have the police come in and have to clear protesters from a public institution.
Well, Robert, wasn't a lot of the civil rights stuff about them stopping black students from going to class, for fuck's sake?
Of course, you know, and we're past all of that, and we should.
We thought.
Yeah, we did think, and it has been the schools. It was watching these presidents play these word salad games to try and not offend anyone. It's like, what is this weird thing about people not accepting responsibility? As an American, that's the very basis of our country, is personal responsibility, the sovereignty of the individual. You know, you don't get the right to interfere with somebody else at our public institutions. And it was up to the universities to show leadership, which they absolutely failed to do.
Right.
You know,
Also,
you come out.
they are reaping the whirlwind that they sowed themselves, in the sense that you had a huge
100%.
number of incredibly even prestigious universities over the last few years which said, right, we're no longer going to take into account, for instance, SAT scores when we're admitting students. What we're really going to do is just test character. We're going to put all the emphasis on character. It's the quote that you shared earlier. It's diversity statement first, and then your resume, or then your CV, or whatever it is that you're applying with.
Right.
All you're doing there is you're deliberately selecting for the most activist students. And it also ties into the point about entrepreneurship and the decline of that, because you're not selecting for people who are academically brilliant, because you are deliberately not factoring in their test scores. Some universities have now, in response to the campus protest, said, we're actually going to start doing SAT scores again. That was a pretty good idea. We kind of want to have students here who want to learn things, not just students who are here because they are the best of the activist class, which is what we've been selecting for the last 5 years. But it's, again, it probably is too late for a lot of these places. They've done it, and it's going to be very hard to row back from. But it's an incredibly dumb mistake, and it was predictable. You could have told, anyone could have told them at any point when they said we're dropping SAT scores. You're actually harming the most underserved and under promoted classes in society anyway. One of the best ways of getting disadvantaged poor kids who are academically brilliant into universities to advance their social status is test scores, because you can't game test scores with money in the way that rich people do. But as soon as you start saying, no, it's all about personality, no test scores, money will speak eventually. The same, we have the problem in the United Kingdom of the same thing. We decided to try and do catchment areas for schools as opposed to tests to get into schools. And all that meant was that rich parents could move into the catchment area of the best schools, and they'd drive the property prices up. And so poor people couldn't go to the best schools anymore. And they couldn't use their test scores to get in there either. Very few scholarships for a long period of time. And it produces a whole generation, or multiple generations at this point, of students who are just dumb. And they are the children of very rich people, which almost all of these very, very left-wing protesters are the children of very rich people as well, which is just, it's, and then of course, then you get to the point when the absurdity of gays for Palestine, and you have women for Hamas, and it's just
no sense, Platoon. It makes no
honestly,
sense.
The quickest, best way of getting around this, just buy them a one-way ticket to the country of their choice. If you put a flag up on campus that is not the American flag, we will send you there. And it will be mandatory, and you're not coming back. But that you said you want to go there, so fuck it, yeah, go be a gay person in Gaza if you want to.
Really? How long would that last? They're going to step off the plane. They're going to get to Gaza. They're going to put up a rainbow flag, which everybody, if that's your thing, that's right. But they're going to be thrown off a building 5 minutes later. I mean,
being the only movie on this panel, I can tell you that is almost assuredly true. I'm going to say little Platoon hit the nail on the head about the test scores thing. When I was, and this is going to drop back to Ron Coleman's Princeton. Princeton was my dream school, and I found out very quickly in sophomore year of high school that despite how good my grades were, if I didn't PSAT and SAT well, I wouldn't get in. And I went and took a PSAT, which indicated my SAT would be in the 900s at best. Then I took the SAT early at the end of my sophomore year and found out the best I got was 940. Which was not good enough by a long shot. Back then, they were in the 1600s.
So you're saying you didn't count on affirmative action?
No. And so what I did is well, hold on. Well, I mean, maybe they may have considered the fact that I was Chicano Mexican American in my profile, but I'm
so
just
you
saying,
say.
Hold on. Let me finish the story. George. Hold on, you bozos. Let me finish the story. I'm being dead serious about this shit. All right. Now, I went and I studied for and took the fucking SAT 4 times until I raised my score another 380 points.
Okay.
My math was great. My English, my verbal sucked. I took that test 4 fucking times so that I had a shot. Now, I ultimately didn't get into Princeton. I got into Stanford. I got a lot of other places. But I was willing to do the work based on the metrics of the time. And if I were to go through this system now, I would merely have to check a box and my ass would have gotten in, along with a lot of people that weren't willing to do the work like I did. I did that work, and it took me 2 years and 4 SATs. And you know what it feels like to walk in and take an SAT and know that and the first time I got the same score, 990. Second time I got up into the high 10s. Third time I got in 1150s. Fourth time I nailed it. But it took 2 years and 4 sittings of the SAT for me to do that. And that is what disappoints me. That right now people think there's some kind of value based on your skin color, and that is horse shit. It is the character. It is the character.
It could be worse though, right? I mean, like if you were Asian, you would go to Harvard and they'd tell you that you have no personality, so you're not getting in, which is even worse.
It's nuts. But the thing is where we're starting to see though is the outcome of all these policies. Again, whether it's in entertainment, whether it's in the universities and the people that they're indoctrinating. I mean, we just had, and I know Tom has already talked to him several times, and I think Platoon is familiar with this, but you know that Grums in the video game, this is the games developer who had a bounty put out on him online. I mean, it went from $30,000 to $50,000. I can't find the $50,000 one. But what does it say? But what does it say about video games that you have people who believe that they're fighting a culture battle? They're so angry with someone because he has a different set of beliefs and he wants to highlight a set of problems, and they put a bounty on his head.
It's very frustrating.
It is. I mean, I don't know how much it says about video games, because like, what's it's calling to my mind is there was that woman who'd said like she went in front of well, was it in court, and she threatened to go and kill the family members of like all the people there. And then it turned out she discovered, much to her chagrin, that this was actually a felony offense and you're not allowed to threaten to kill people in real life. But what
and
is
that was the young girl.
Is,
she was young.
It was, yeah, exactly. So then the next appearance, she was crying. She was very tearful because she realized that she'd actually done something serious. But I think it's more reflective of just the culture of online discourse that a lot of particularly quite left-wing people inhabit, especially if they're like perennially online. They spend all of their time in subreddits, and they spend all of their time on Twitter, and this is how they talk, because they're used to having no consequences for speech in that sense. They're all they're all in favor of consequences for other people's speech, but they're very, very used to being able to do this highfalutin, hyper-verbose, and very, very, very radicalized speech online, because they assume that no one's going to come back. It's not going to hurt them in any conceivable way. And then it translates into online discourse, from online, sorry, to offline discourse. And then all of a sudden they realize that, yeah, actually, making death threats in the way that you do anonymously online is not going to pass muster if you do it in public, in person, in real life, because people tend to react against that kind of thing quite badly. But they're very used to having no consequences. That's the problem.
But do you think it's jumping now the barrier? That's what I'm talking about. Like we were seeing it where you had these people who are anonymous. They'd made these threats the way they would talk in their hyperbolic manner. Now they're doing it on Twitter, but now you also see them at the universities. Like I'm trying to see if there's that connection between what Hollywood's shoveling on one end, what they're learning in school on another end, combine it with the online, the social media life. And it seems like we're jumping certain barriers, almost kind of like a virus, you know, when it can jump from a bird.
It's some of the graffiti that you see on college campuses with words like decolonization is not a theory. Or people who excuse the October 7th atrocities by saying, well, what did you expect? Did you think we were just talking about decolonization? Like at some point, it becomes action. And it sounds really cool and edgy when they say it on a message board and when they graffiti it on the walls of a college, which they're now allowed to do. But actually what you are doing there is you are literally saying, no, when we're talking academically about decolonization, what we mean is actual mass murder. That is where it leads to if you have no consequences until that point.
Yeah, Douglas Murray has been talking about that for a while. And he brilliant guy.
Did anyone watch the Israeli ambassador's speech to the United Nations the other day?
No.
It might be the greatest speech ever given in the modern age.
I'll have to watch it.
And by the end,
no one listened to it in the United Nations, that's for sure.
And watch to the end, because it is the most scathing, I mean, skewering of the United Nations you could possibly imagine. Presented in a very, very mannered. But it was so spot on, and it was fantastic. I don't know if people hate when I promote pro-Israeli, but I see Israel having I've been to Israel, and as somebody who sees them as a very a pluralistic parliamentary democracy that is a very cosmopolitan place, and I was invited there to show a movie I made, and it was a very great, for me it was a terrific honor, and to see how people are treated in Israel. What is happening now is just an incredible shame. And I will always be a staunch. I mean, now I'm being called a Zionist, and it's like, no, I believe in Western civilization. that is the gates of Western civilization in an area where there is none. And so that's what we're seeing here. And watching this guy lay it out, it was. And the funny thing is, do we want people to die? Of course not. I mean, nobody wants people en masse to die. I say on my own channel, if you go for Adrian Veidt and you believe what he said in Watchmen, or the Dr. Manhattan, the thermodynamic miracle of life. Each one of us is unique in the cosmic infinitude of the universe. And the short time that we're here is an amazing, miraculous thing. So to lose anyone before their time is a true tragedy, because you're losing something. There's only one of each one of us in the universe.
Right, and all their potential, everything that they could be.
The cosmic infinitude, and it's like Clint Eastwood said, it's a hell of a thing killing a man. You take everything you had.
Well, I want to know where some of this sweet white privilege is. I had recently, the joke that George and Rob were making earlier is I had to get my passport and I had to order a birth certificate, which came back, which indicates, I don't know if you can read that on the screen, but it says
Caucasian.
Back said Caucasian.
You need to change your tag.
Dude, you keep saying that it's a mistake. We all know that you're an infiltrator. Just take it. Just own
you're a white dude. So whether it's a mistake that they put Caucasian instead of Hispanic, or I'm an info, I want to know where some of that sweet nectar white privilege I keep hearing about is. Where's that?
Okay.
Dude, simple. I'm waiting for the checks from the Zionist occupied government. I'm waiting for where come on, where the protocols of the elders of Zion. I've received nothing. I get nothing.
Robert and I talked about this, Mike. All you have to do is stop using spray tan, and then your color will come out, and then everybody will see that you're truly white, and then the privilege will start rolling in.
See, now everyone's gonna know, Mike. I've been keeping it a secret, keeping a lid on it. So you send me a hot toy that's painted like a Mexican flag. Oh, I'm supposed to be like, okay, but you're really now.
Well, here's funny enough. Platoon was talking about the fact that they could write, decolonization. When I was mentioning earlier that program that Disney is funding, where they're only funding Islamic filmmakers for a year, and they're doing it with Sundance. I don't think Robert was here at the time. No. Well, here is the actual. This is the lady right here, if you can see it. And the name of the video is "The Road to Decolonization."
Right. What?
The Road to Decolonization.
All right. I want to learn something about colonization.
Does anyone know the history of Islam in terms of colonizing? I mean,
correct. I know, but that's what's funny is that she wants to push. When you read and you listen to her video, because it's too long to listen to, I just want to give everybody a taste of it. She's like, I am here to represent the decolonization of the United States, beginning in entertainment and then in education. And I'm like, well, and she's like, so we can then bring in more Muslim filmmakers so we can have more discussions about Islam and art. I'm like, well, are you talking about the people who believe in colonizing everybody?
Wait.
I feel as if my afternoon is beginning to become oppressed and apologetic. So I've actually got clients who think I'm in the office today, and that's why I have this great green screen behind me. But I'm gonna bail.
Okay.
Thank you all. Great to see those.
Thank you, Ron.
I know, and I hope we can do this again soon. Thanks a lot.
Absolutely.
You're great, Ron. Thank you so much.
So long.
Anyway, I just thought that was funny to.